أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله أحمده واستعينه واستهديه واستغفره وأؤمن به جل وعلا ولا أكفره وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون. All praise belongs to Allah. We praise Him, we seek His help, His assistance and His guidance. We believe in Him and do not disbelieve in Him. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is His servant and messenger. Allah sent Him, that is Muhammad, with Deen al-Haq, the religion, the way, the methodology of truth. And this way of life known as Islam will rise to its proper position in the world, whether the mushriks like it or not. Amma ba'd. فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وأوثق الأمور كلمة التقوى وخير الملال ملة إبراهيم وخير السنن سنة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وأشرف الحديث ذكر الله وأحسن القصص هذا القرآن وخير الأمور أوزموها وشر الأمور محدثاتها وأحسن الهدي هدي الأنبياء وأشرف الموت قتل الشهداء وأما علم دلالة بعد الهدى وخير الأعمال ما نفاها وخير الهادي ما اتباعا وشر الأمة أما الكام. Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam has said the most truthful of discourses is Kitabullah, or the Book of Allah. The most trustworthy word is Taqwa, or fear of Allah. The best of the communities is the community of Prophet Ibrahim. The best way of life is the Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. The remembrance of Allah is the most glorious of all things. The best of all narrations is Quran. The best acts are those requiring the highest degree of will and determination. The worst acts are those based on innovation. The best way of life is the one adopted by the prophets of Allah. The most glorious death is the death of the martyr. The most wretched blindness consists of going astray after finding the right way. The best acts are the ones that yield benefits. Best guidance is that which people may be able to follow. The worst blindness is the blindness of the heart. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inna Allah yahmuru bil-ali wal-ihsani wa-ita'i dhul-qurba wa-yanha anil-fashai wal-munkari wal-baghi ya'idhukum la'allakum tadhakkarun. Allah commands justice and the doing of good and liberality to kith and kin. He forbids all shameful deeds and injustice and rebellion. He instructs you that you may receive admonition. فَمَنْ يَرِدِ اللَّهُ أَنْ يَهْدِيَهُ يَشْرَحْ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ. Those whom Allah in His plan willing to guide, He opens their breast to Islam. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ حَقَّ تُقَاتِهِ وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. O you believe, fear Allah as He should be feared, and do not die except in a state of Islam. وَأَعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا وَاذْكُرُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ, and hold fast all together by the rope which Allah stretches out for you, and be not divided amongst yourselves, and remember with gratitude Allah's favor on you. Kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat lin-nasi ta'muruna bil ma'rufi wa tanhauna 'anil munkar wa tu'minuna billah. You are the best peoples ever evolved for mankind, enjoining what is right and forbidding what is wrong and believing in Allah. I want you to remember during the khutbah when we use kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat lin-nasi. Remember we talked about kharaja, ukhrijat, to evolve, to expand, to exit, to go out of. One of the early groups in Islam that was so Islamic, they technically left Islam. They were so Islamic. They called them Khawarij, from Ukhrijat, Kharaja, exit. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. والصلاة والسلام على خير المرسلين محمدين النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد، يقول الله تعالى في القرآن الكريم: إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولقد أرسلنا موسى بآياتنا أن أخرج قومك من ظلمات إلى النور وذكرهم بأيام الله إن في ذلك الآيات لكل صبار شكور. This is a text of the khutbah today that was held in Iran several hours ago. And the Rahbar, this was the focus of his khutbah today. We sent Moses with our signs and the command, bring out the people from the depths of darkness into the light, and teach them to remember the days of Allah. Verily, in these there are signs for such as are firmly patient and constant, grateful and appreciative. This is because Ayyam Allah means the days of Allah. Now, it may mean, for Yahud, it may mean the day that they crossed the sea, to freedom and what have you. Certain red letter days in the history of a people that have signs that show them that this is a time for you to be thankful and appreciative and grateful for what Allah has given you. Here they have Thanksgiving, that type of stuff. But this is, of course, on a higher level. Ayyam Allah means the days of Allah. These are days in your history of a people that prove to them that Allah exists, Allah is on their side, because the things that happen are miraculous. They're miracles. There's something that couldn't happen outside of the miraculous perspective. They're just real, and they're miracles, and there they are. And in the khutbah today, of course, all over Iran, there are demonstrations. There was demonstrations by the millions. When Qasem Soleimani was martyred a couple of weeks ago, it was a couple of weeks ago now. At his funeral, they took his body around 5 cities in Iran and 2 cities in Iraq, right? Of course, there were hundreds of thousands of millions in Iraq. And there was 2 great flags, the Iranian flag and the Iraqi flag. And you could see how the mixture of the blood on the battlefield, because the Americans trying to establish or reestablish their foothold in the so-called Middle East, actually they're trying to shape the Middle East in their image, to shape the Middle East where it serves the Zionist state of Israel. Shape the Middle East like they had it before. Like when all the countries of the Middle East, the Shah, remember, the dictator, the Shah, was in Iran for over 25 years. And who brought him there? He was put out in 1951, right? He came over here, and the Americans brought him back in 1953. The CIA, which was formed from the OSS in 1947, was formed with a combination of Americans and ex-Nazis, all of them so-called experts in security and collecting of information. The first coup of the CIA was 1953. The second coup was probably in Guatemala, 1954. The Arbenz government, so-called socialist government. Anybody that want to do anything, if you want to help the people, it's almost like signing your own death warrant, right? In Latin America and almost up until recently anywhere in the world. If you want to do good, you're in trouble. So, the Rahbar's talk today was predicated on this idea of remembering the days of Allah. Remember those special days. Now remember, for Iran, this goes back 41 years. You got to remember, they had a war for 8 years. The bloodiest war in the Middle East was between Iran and Iraq. Now they're the best of friends. But the dictator, Saddam Hussein, was the one that initiated the war. And the whole world, instead of following the Quran, the Muslim world, should follow, make peace between your brother. If you can't make peace between your brother, right, find out who's right and who's wrong, and you fight all together the one that's wrong until they come to the right. This is what the Quran says. Everybody did the opposite. All the Muslims turned on Iran and used all their wealth, all their power, and all their influence to destroy it. You got to remember, this is a big deal now. It might be a little slight in here because people don't want to hear about Iran, because people still follow. The other night I was in here and I said something about the criminal Saudi Arabia, the Triangle of Terror, Saudi Arabia, the USA, and the Zionist state. And one of the brothers, he was a Sudanese brother, he said, I lived in, young brother, I lived in Saudi Arabia. I said, so what? Still a criminal state? And I began to run down a few things. He said, they are racist over there, though. You know. I said, that's the smallest thing they are. If you're a Sudanese, you black, you know what I mean? And you're an Abd servant is the name they would use for us. Abd servant, you know, that's what, anyway, look. This ayat, لَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا مُوسَى بِآيَاتِنَا أَنْ أَخْرِجْ, remember, Kharaja, Kaumaka, the people, min al-dhulimati, from dhul, from darkness. Allah sent, Arsalna, he sent Musa alayhi salam, right, to bring the people out of dhul, darkness, into the nur, into the light. وَذَكِّرْهُمْ بِأَيَّوْمَ اللَّهِ. This Yawm Allah is a big deal. The days of Allah is a big deal. The days of Allah is days that prove convincingly that Allah is on your side. And the people should never forget those days. Now, Allah sends the message to a people not only in their language. By the way, the Rahbar spoke the second part of his message in Arabic to the Arabic people. And I was just listening on to the news of one of them handkerchief-headed Arabs or something, you know. Yes, he spoke in Arabic because of that. Well, he didn't speak in Arabic first, because you have to bring the message. It's like some places in the world that the khutbah is in Arabic, and the people are sitting there. Say if you're in Africa and some places, and the people is running the Arabic khutbah, don't sin, don't do this, and the people go out the door and they go straight to sinning, because they don't know what you're talking about. All they're doing is, we know we're Muslim, and we go for the ritual, you know. Now, some places are smart. Some places, especially of Indian origin, they have Indo-Pakistani origin, they have a wahid. That means a speech. Like if we gave an Arabic khutbah here, we would also have an English talk before khutbah. And all of us would be coming mainly for the English talk, and then some guys, you won't believe it, they get up and they have khutbahs from 500 years ago, from the time of the sultans, and they run them in Arabic. And they sit down, stand up, and keep on running it, and then they pray. And don't nobody know what they said, because they speak Urdu or something else, right? But the ones that are smart, anyway, so Allah sends the message. When he sent Musa alayhi salam, He said Musa speaking the language of the people. Nowadays, if the message is going to Iran, it would be a message in Farsi, right? If the message is going to Iraq also, it should be translated or spoken directly by the speaker into the Arabic language. Those countries who were once at war with each other are now, their blood have been mixed together by the criminal organization known as the United States of America. Their blood have been mixed together. Those people who were martyred were taken around to all the special places, Najaf, Karbala, with both flags of each people on them. And that uniting of their blood and martyrdom by the United States, remember, not by each other. They were united together, and the celebrations, the funerals in Iraq were enormous. In Iran, it was over 25 million people. This morning is the first time they broadcast the number, which is easy to believe. Because when they have 5 million in this city, 5 million in another city, 10 million, 7 or 8 million in Tehran, right? Hey. Now look what has happened. The days of Allah, go back 40 years. Go back 40 years. I remember in the years 80, 81, all the people were being martyred. All the great personalities in Iran, Beheshti, who technically wrote or assisted in writing the Constitution of Iran. Beheshti, Bahunar, Rajai, Muhammad Ali Rajai, the president, the prime minister. They all martyred 1, 2, 3, right after another. Some cases, over 72 of the leaders are martyred in the same place at the same time. Right? By bombings and munafiqs and what have you. But the country held together. To them, they remember that as the days of Allah. They were saying at that time, when Muhammad Ali Rajai and Bahunar was martyred, president and prime minister, they said, Iran has become Karbala and every day is Ashura. Ashura is the days, you know, for us we have Ashura, but Ashura for them is about the day when Imam Hussein was martyred. And then it goes all the way over another 40 days, Arba'in, and they do a super demonstration. Now, you got to go back to these demonstrations. How important are they in rebellion? When the rebellion was first taking place, and one day Imam Khomeini gave a fatwa. He said, to stay in your house today is haram. And when they came out, everybody came out. This is it. He said, to stay in your house today is haram. So they flooded the streets, the Shah had to go, and that was it. They call it the 10 days of dawn, February the 1st to February the 11th. Just guess what? The martyrdom of Muhandis, right? Our Iraqi brother, and the martyrdom of Soleimani will be on the 40th day. The 40th day, remember they was martyred 2 weeks ago? 40 days from then will be February the 11th. What is February the 11th? It's the anniversary of the Islamic Revolution in Iran. Yeah. Almost every year we'd go to the anniversary, we'd go for 10 days, celebration after celebration. And finally, on February 11th, then there would be a big celebration. Everybody would be out Azadi Square. You know, a country should have experts that advise its leaders on policy. They should advise them on steps that you take. What would be the result? So that you think through a policy, right? It's a government, right? Don, he thinks through, I won't say he thinks, he bruises through, peruses through, and he stops at what makes sense to him. Oh, I don't like that guy. They have the message that he's invited to Iran to take part in peace talks between the people there. That's what he's there for. He's not there to blow up nobody. Right? He's there on a peace mission. And almost everybody know it. Some kind of way, what we're going to do is we're going to kill this guy. He's a bad guy. Well, he's a bad guy to them. But he's not a bad guy to those people over there. The old saying about our freedom fighter is your terrorist, right? So they say he's a terrorist. They say he's the one that helped establish IUDs. Well, what was the IUDs? The IUDs was being used in Afghanistan against U.S. troops who invaded them people. Right? They were used in Iraq because all the legs blown off and all that, because they're invading Iraq. Like the people of Iraq got a right to defend themselves. And they're slaughtering the people. You know, in this last invasion, 2003, they say it was up in the 100,000s, maybe 1 million people was killed. Those numbers are just, you can't hardly. You know, over here in America, if you lose a few people, you start falling all down and going crazy. In the Iran-Iraq war, it was 1 million people got martyred. Let's say 500,000 Iraqis, 500,000 Iranians. That's a lot of people. 1 million people. Madeleine Albright, they gave her a number. They said the sanctions that you've had on Iraq was, what, 750,000? She said, I think it's worth it. 750,000 of those people died from sanctions from the United States a few years back. I think it was worth it. Can you imagine that old hag saying that all those hundreds and thousands of people are worth it? It's okay. They deserve it. Forget about the depleted uranium use. Babies born with 3 hands, 1 foot, big head, no feet, depleted uranium. Not only were they like that in Iraq, but the women who were in the military from America and was over there around that depleted uranium, they had the same thing here. They don't say much about that. They had something called Gulf War Syndrome. And the people over here didn't want to recognize it, so they said, oh, you just have a headache. Take you a couple of Tylenol, a few aspirins, and go on home, drink plenty of water and stuff. That's what they told the people. Right? They got away with that for a long time. Then they came up with the real deal, Gulf War Syndrome. This thing really exists. The numbers were too many. Let's go back to the text. Laqad arsalna Musa bi ayatina and akhrij. Bring the people, evolve the people, develop the people from dhul, darkness, to the light. And then teach them to remember the days of Allah. All of what we've been telling you, they over there had to go through that. All of what we said here, they went through that and 100 times more. Because the Zionist, the American, and the Saudi policy, all of the things that are happening bad in the world, in that region right now, Saudi Arabia developed. They developed Taliban. What does Taliban do? You know, Don talked about we're going to blow up your 52 of your sites and cultural sites. You know why? They got in the habit. Remember Bamiyan in Afghanistan? Those big Buddhist idols, they've been there for hundreds of years, probably thousands of years. They have to be thousands of years because Afghans have been Buddhists since before Islam, right? So nobody could build them. So they must be a couple of thousand years old. Big statue. They were tourists. They get money off of this. There ain't nobody worshiping them things anymore. The Taliban goes and blow them up. Now remember, in Babylon, Babylon is Iraq, Syria, Palmyra. Remember those cities? What do? They steal. They made it possible for all their sites to be invaded and their cultural icons stolen and sent to Europe or blown up and destroyed. They wanted to destroy your history. Most of what they're talking about is pre-Islamic history. These guys, remember I was talking about Khawarij, they so Islamic, they go outside of Islam. That's how, I ain't gonna call their name, but you would know who we're talking about. They got tons of them here. For the last 40 years, the madrasas, the Islamic schools, the press, the Qurans and all of that we get from Saudi Arabia, right? They are the ones that's been spreading all of this fitna and foolishness. They're the ones that's been spreading. So, we, America, we have to be here to fight against ISIS. They created ISIS. Them in Saudi Arabia. They created Daesh. America and Saudi Arabia created those people. If those people today get wounded fighting in Syria, anywhere, where do they go for medical treatment? Israel, they go right to Israel. This is a big game. And everybody tell us, well, Syria is a bad guy. Well, in the old days during Hafiz Assad's time, Syria was bad. But when the United States and the Zionists get in on it, and because of Syria's policy on Palestine, and because, number one, we done knocked over Iraq. I mean, not Iraq, we done knocked over Libya, right? That's what we gave on our main speeches on stuff we talk about now. Hands off Libya. Down in Dallas, Texas. In fact, it was at the grassy knoll where they assassinated Kennedy. What's the picture behind all of this? They tried to draw a new map of the Middle East. So when they got rid of Libya, they consulted with Russia and everything, and Russia said, well, okay, if you want to. So they knocked over Libya. That was a big Russian customer for weapons and all of that. But you know the thing about Libya, they used to call Gaddafi the king of Africa. You know why? He supported, if you were not Islamic and you were a black African movement, he would support you. In Chad, Uganda, everywhere. In fact, you can look at two Negro organizations here, right? One was real Muslim, the other was semi-Muslim, but they all had a little black flag in their back pocket. Libya gave them money, right? They got brothers in the penitentiary right now and been there 20 years from talking to the old man. That's what they was calling Gaddafi, right there in Chicago. Why do you think all of the Peace Stone Nation, Blackstone Rangers, Al-Rukin, why are they in jail right now? For not being smart. They didn't need to be in the penitentiary, but they was talking too loud about having a relationship with Libya. I'm going to explain this in detail. Just give me a little time. When they got rid of Libya, Gaddafi, he had $34 billion in gold. He was talking about a new dinar, a national monetary thing, for the Arabs, for everybody that wanted to join. That means they would move away from the dollar, so you know he got to go. They tell you we didn't like him because of it. No. And every problem that they have in Europe now, right, all the flood of immigrants going across the sea, how did they get there? They destroyed Gaddafi in Libya, made it a weak point of that area, so everybody leaves everywhere from Pakistan, even Afghanistan, all kind of places, Syria mostly, and they go to Libya. They couldn't do that during Gaddafi's time. They go to Libya, and then, zoop, across the sea they go. They drown by the thousands trying to get to Europe. Europe don't want them no more. Europe is the one that created the problem for themselves. They're the ones that got rid of Gaddafi. Gaddafi didn't get rid of himself, right? They got to get rid of Gaddafi. What about the king of Africa? So now everybody in Chad, I don't know, everywhere, they come to Libya because they remember Libya was good to us in the old days. But the crew that took over is handkerchief-headed Arabs. And guess what? They hate blacks, right? Oh, niggas. We gotta, well, we're gonna either put you in a new type of slavery here that we just made it special for you. We're gonna put you in jail. We're gonna do everything but what you want. That's today, right? This very minute, right now. So our world is all mixed up right now, right today. But in the midst of this, there's a revival going on, and it started 41 years ago. Now, years ago, Iran fought all alone, nobody helping it, by itself. Now, it has something, we call it the Strategic Alliance. Iran, Iraq, Syria. And as a backup, they even got Russia and China there. But that's a, yes?
I'm not agreeing with you.
I don't care whether you agree. You sitting in Juma, you have to, you can't just, you can't come in here. You can go somewhere else. If you're gonna interrupt the khutbah, you don't have to agree with nothing I say. You have to get on out of here. If you're gonna talk, you gotta take that man out of here. You can't interrupt no khutbah because you don't agree. What kind of, who sent you here anyway? Now this is what they do. They send somebody here, Iranian, a stupid Iranian. You are a dumb Iranian. Your people is fighting the greatest battle. Take them on out. You can't come in here talking about what, you can do that over Dar Hidra somewhere to interrupt the khutbah. The khutbah says you have to be quiet and sit down. What I'm saying, there's a long history of it. Not only did we prove it before, but we proved it here. Moses' job was to bring the people out of darkness into the light. The Noah. The things that happened were signs. Now you have Iran, you have Iraq, you have Syria. Technically for the Iranians, it's legal. The Iranians don't know it according to the Quran, but technically it's legal for them to help Syria under any circumstances. Why? The Quran has, I'm not reading it now, but basically paraphrasing is the ayat that says in Surah Tawbah, that's a nice surah, they have an ayat that talks about treaties of peace. Treaties of peace, Barat al-Mushrikeen, that those treaties between the mushriks, right, and Islam are finished. Finished. Except those mushriks that did not fight you, nor did they join anyone else to fight against you. That's right there in the Quran now. So technically, remember, the only people that didn't fight against Iran during the Gulf War was Syria. Syria was a pure dictatorship. They were Baathists, just like Iraq used to be. Some of the leadership was Alawiyyan. Alawiyyan, they say Ali is Allah. The Quran says the treaties between those people you are dissolved, Barat al-Mushrikeen, except the people who didn't fight against you directly, nor did they join anybody. And Syria is the only country in that region. So homeboy needs to go study his history. He needs to study his history, but after all, somebody is paying him to come over here. Can you imagine the millions of people in Iran today? The speech I'm giving you is very close to what the Rahbar gave several hours ago. Rahbar means the leader. The Saudis around here, I don't want to degenerate into this fitna, but I just want to explain a few things. In Persian, Rahbar means leader. Over at the Islamic Center, Saudi embassy was putting out booklets 35, 40 years, well, right after the revolution, but definitely up to 30 years ago, and at the height of it, 35 years ago. Because the Iranians would say, Allahu Akbar, Khomeini Rahbar. You know what the booklet said? The Iranians worship Khomeini. So if you're not listening close, you see, they say Allahu Akbar, Khomeini Akbar, not Rahbar. Some dirty boys, Negro they can't tell the difference between Rahbar and Akbar. He's not that, you know, in those days we didn't even know the difference, right? They said the Iranians, because they had a revolution, because they was against the Shah, because Saudi Arabia, when the Shah was in there, nobody had no problem with, when the Shah was in charge, nobody had no problem with the Shah over there, the Arabs. But when he broke away, I mean, it was broken away, then they hated it. They hated the ones that broke the people away. Okay, we're going to try to wrap this up in a minute. We sent Moses with our signs and the command, bring out the people from the depths of darkness into light, and teach them to remember the days of Allah. Verily in this there are signs for such as are firmly patient and constant, grateful and appreciative. You know, the other thing about people that come and visit, you know when you getting under their skin, when they send disruptors to destabilize, to disrupt, right? To take attention. You know that you're doing right. You're right on the money. And they burning up about it. And when you are balanced in your approach, that makes them even madder. Right? So what I'm telling you, what just happened is not new. That happened, used to happen all the time. Why this happened today for the first time in years? Because we hit the nail on the head each time and every time with vigor, right? And that's what they hate. Now, we'll go on. Remember Moses said to his people, call to mind the favor of Allah to you. And when he delivered you from the peoples of Pharaoh, they set you hard tasks and punishments, slaughtered your sons, and let your women folk live. Therein was a tremendous trial from your Lord. But then it says, and remember your Lord calls to be declared publicly. If you are grateful, I will add more favors unto you. But if you show ingratitude, truly my punishment is terrible indeed. So this is declared publicly. If you are grateful, now the word grateful and ungrateful. Grateful is leaning right up to faith, Imam. Ungrateful is leaning right up next to Kufrism. If you're grateful, if you're thankful, if you're appreciative for what Allah gave you, now remember, suppose this thing then come to you and you are sticking to it with resistance, with resolve, with ability, right? And you're rolling right along. But you're thankful for it. Allah give you more. You know what's happening? Look, our martyred brother could not have done anything close to what the United States did in martyring him. No kind of way. He united the whole region. Can you imagine? In the last week, they've been burning American stuff in Pakistan and everywhere, right? They have united the whole region. Can you imagine? How could the revolutionary forces bring out 25 million people? How could they do that? All focused on one thing. How could they do that? They couldn't do it. They didn't have the power. How could you get rid of, what are they talking about in Iraq? We want you gone, Sam. You gotta go. Right? Who sent missiles and shaking old Sam up? And now they admit, yeah, we did have a few problems, a few wounded people. Did they say that on the news? We did, what he said, he just lied. He said, ain't nobody, everything's fine. Right? Everything's fine, there ain't nothing wrong here. So we just take it easy since nobody was hurt. Man, you can see on their TV, if they hadn't got a couple of minutes warning and got out of Dodge, they would have been blown to smithereens. Remember, technology. And then the Rahbar said it today. Said we got to move from an oil-based economy, right, to science and technology and all that. Why? Because the sanctions on oil is destroying the economy. So you got to get involved in science, engineering, technology, agriculture, and get back to exporting and, you know, getting into big business. That's what he said today. Imagine, how could we, them, anybody, have united all of those people together? And then today, there's millions of people out. I'm just telling you, in Tehran today, when the Rahbar gave this khutbah, it was the Musalla of Imam Khomeini is a downtown terror. This place is so big, it's unbelievable. They start filling it up early this morning. Early this morning. And it's freezing cold in Iran. They said it's 32 degrees outside right now. That's what they said this morning when I was half asleep, but I was listening to the khutbah. That means more people was outside than inside. How could you do that? The United States did it. The Israelis did it. If you watch the news and believe the stuff you see on the news about Daesh, y'all remember 2015? All them white trucks and all those guys riding to take over Iraq. You know why they took it over so easy? Because Saudi Arabia had paid most of the generals to abandon ship, and they did. They just left. The poor sergeants and corporals, they didn't know what to do. So they just surrendered or left. That's how they took over all of those huge areas. And then the people that are martyred are the ones that took it back from them. That's why they're killed, because they did such a great job in unifying the people, focusing them on eradicating the most destructive force inside the Ummah, Daesh, and all the rest of those Talibans. But even the Taliban had enough for the U.S., so now they, you wait, I believe it. 20-something years ago, the Taliban was Iran's main enemy. And now they're sneaking around, getting along. Because one thing everybody gonna find out, eventually that the United States want to use you for their purposes. Okay. Now I'm only telling everybody so we'll make our right decisions here. So we'll make right decisions. We'll know when we turn on the news who the bad guys are and who the good guys are. You know, most of our people don't know. They think the ones, when they say this guy's a terrorist, they believe it. We're not Democrats and Republicans, we're Muslims. So when we watch that news, we want to know, what are they talking about? What do they have in this game? Right? So when we look at that news, we'll be able to tell, generally, if they say the man is bad, then he's got to be good. And the badder they say he is, the better he is. This is a general rule. They got some little details a little different. Therefore, what Allah says in the Quran, if you're grateful, I'm going to give you more. If your faith stays strong, you're going to get more. You think sanctions and everything is bad for Iran, don't you? You think this is the terriblest thing that ever happened. In fact, even some of them think it. But guess what? Sanctions mean you get cut off, you get isolated, you have to develop yourself. No country in the world, Venezuela's barely holding on, but no country in the world could stand the amount of sanctions, isolation, and cutoff that Iran has suffered. unless it had been trained before through discipline. Iran has been sanctioned for 40 years. One level or another, they can deal with it. They're not crying either, talking about, oh, we wish we didn't get... No, those sanctions are good for you. It's like taking a bad medicine. You don't like, it's a good medicine, but you don't like the taste. See, little children, you know how they do medicine? They make it in pretty colors and they make it sweet. And they done sweeten it up so much, the medicine won't. I tried to give my daughter some of the best medicine I thought of it all. She just helped me every time I take it. I don't like it. And wouldn't take it because it didn't taste good. Oh, this is serious. I mean, that's when I really understood why they make everything taste sweet. They've taken that medicine over there and they've taken it down in big gulps. And read the newspaper today. Go turn on CNN News. They're going to lie, but they're going to show you huge crowds. By the millions. How could Iran get 25 million people out? You know, they couldn't. Soleimani's martyrdom brought them out. The anniversary of the revolution is coming up a couple of weeks. Yeah, a little over 2 weeks. And then by February the 11th, the anniversary of the revolution will be the 40th Arbaeen for those martyrs in Iraq and for Iran. You're talking about big, you get ready. You ain't seen nothing big like that before. It ain't scared nobody. It's made them bigger, but that's what Allah says. If you're grateful, I'm going to give you more. You know, I was in Iran during the war and after the war. I'm talking about in the 80s and all of that. You couldn't get no Iranian toothpaste. You couldn't get nothing. Everything was imported. It was bad business. But wasn't nobody crying. You know what they was doing? The best pistachios, they were sending them up to the war front. The best things that they had, I'm telling you, they were sending up to the war front. You can believe TV or you can believe brainwashing or not, but I'm telling you, them young boys, when they had troops back there, when they had passed around in the back, ready to go forward, and there was a minefield, them little boys, 14, 15, 16, was walking through the minefields holding hands and clearing the minefield so the troops would come through. You can't whoop nobody like that because they're ready for martyrdom. I'm going to close out with this, but I was trying to explain some of the things that was developing, and the quickest way I can do it was in the last 3 or 4 years has been 20 million, 25, some even said 30 million people, Shias, going to Najaf and Karbala. Right. And all along the way, they got people giving out sandwiches, food, and everything. 2-3 million people go to Hajj here. They have trampolines, stampedes, and everything. Can you imagine? Let's just settle at 20 million. Going to celebrate Arbaeen, the martyrdom of Imam Hussein. As I said before, you got to, if you're going to run a government, you have to have your government study the customs and the habits of the people, right? They're supposed to tell you, if we kill this guy, right, he's going to become a martyr. What's almost the cardinal attitude of Shias? Martyrdom. Everybody knows that. And if you keep scratching Shias, now we've said all that here, keep on scratching, In everyday life, they're just like us. Just everybody likes to pray. They don't want to mind their own business. They want to send their children to college. But if you keep scratching, you're going to hit blood. And when you hit that, everybody's ready. Now hold it. Allah been preparing, and we told everybody here, they've been preparing the Shia community for this for a long time. That's why everybody was going to Najaf and Karbala, because they know some reason we've been wronged in this. People are bothering us for no reason. People are pressuring us for no reason. Right? Therefore, they are psychologically ready, and Allah was preparing them all this time. That's why Don didn't, when the people told Don, they said, well, what will happen if we respond to Iran? They say Iran will light up the whole area. Will light it up. They got the number of people, they got the weapons, and they got the independence. And they're not going to let you get close enough to do all of what you did in Iraq. They say they're going to hit Saudi Arabia and chop off the eastern provinces. That's why all oil. That's because all the Shias are there. They're going to call it Shiistan and call it a day. Their allies in Yemen that have been fighting for 5 years, they're going to load them up with weapons. Why? So that they can knock the rest of the Arabian Peninsula. From Yemen, the richest Arab country in the world, Saudi Arabia, killing the poorest. And it's no big deal. Ain't nobody jumping up and down. Yeah, they're just killing them. So, just bombing wedding parties, whatever they feel like. It's okay. Ain't nobody saying a whole lot of nothing. Here and nobody else. They're going to hit in Bahrain. Bahrain is 80%. It's ruled by Sunnis, but it has 80% Shias. The Fifth Fleet is there. They're going to destroy the Fifth Fleet right away. They can't get out because they got to get out there. The bottleneck is almost worse than Pearl Harbor. If you go, it's worse than, y'all remember Pearl Harbor, when the big ships couldn't go nowhere. When the Japanese hit it in 41, the Fifth Fleet, all the ships in the Gulf, they're right at Iranian missiles. Do you know Iranians are number 4 in drones in the world? And their missile technology is now equal to just about anybody's, except it's non-nuclear. That means they can hit this table from Iran right now. Well, they can hit anything in the Middle East. But their missile technology go 1,200 miles, maybe 24 by now. So they could hit Europe. They could hit part of Europe right now for sure. The whole Gulf, they call it the Persian Gulf, not the Arab Gulf. So because Persia has been the empire in that area, it's just going back to its pre-British, pre-American state. It's the Persian Gulf. It's always been that, and now it's going back to that state. Remember, and I'll close with this. Allah said in Quran and gave you examples that He sent people, in this case Musa alayhi salam, and sent him to bring the people from the Dhul to the Nur, from darkness into light, and teach them to remember the days of Allah, Ayyam Allah. That's what they said. The title of the Rahbar's talk today was an old one. It's been popular all during the revolution. Ayyam Allah, the days of Allah. Teach people to remember those special days. And they're going to relate to their history, not our history over here in America, Thanksgiving and stuff. Their history. Since they've been doing it, Allah says in Quran, if you do it, I'll give you more. I'll just wrap up here in a minute. And remember, your Lord calls to be declared publicly, if you are grateful, I will add more favors unto you. But if you show ingratitude, truly my punishment is terrible indeed. And Moses said, if you show ingratitude, you and all on earth together, yet is Allah free of all wants, worthy of all praise. And I'll close with this, dear believers. Ingratitude. If Saudi Arabia has as much or more oil than anybody in the world, and they're ungrateful to Allah for it, right? If they use it in the wrong way, right? If some of the Gulf states are supporting the Zionist state of Israel more than they're supporting the other Muslims, then they're ungrateful for the gifts that they have. If the Gulf Cooperation Council or community is aligned with America and the Israelis more than they are with the Muslims, then they can expect a punishment to come. And that punishment is on the way. If they have a problem, and instead of calling on Allah, they call on the United States, like Saudi Arabia did, like Kuwait did. Remember a few years ago, they had the little babies being taken out of incubator things? And the girl was saying, they did this, they did that in Iraq. The only thing about it, that girl, very well educated, she was the daughter of the ambassador of Kuwait, sitting on the news talking about how they treating us over there, right? They was lying on Saddam Hussein. If we're grateful, we're going to get more. Right now, we need more. But we need focus, what we call it the other day, visioneering, like engineering. Visioneering, visualizing the way you want the world to be. We don't like the world the way it is, so we are working to change the world to a better place, a good place to live. A place where human beings could live out their human life, not their animal life, where they're free to evolve quickly or slowly according to their own disposition. We don't want to see a world where human beings are herded like animals, shaped and herded and disciplined to form and help only 1% of the population. We don't want that anymore. We're not putting up with it. You can put up with it, they can put up with it. But here's what Allah said. Moses said, if you show ingratitude, if we show ingratitude, if Allah allowed us to ease over here and get into big money, get into big education, but at the time of the decline of America, and we don't stand up for our people back home, that's ingratitude. That's ingratitude if we don't stand up here. You notice in 20 years, what happened to all those demonstrations we had about Palestine, about everything? You don't see them no more. The only reason we don't do it because we look like a fool standing out there all by ourselves. But our hopes and our dreams and our visioneering is on making this place where we're from, America, not America the great, but America the good. I'm going to move toward a close, but America ain't never been no good. You might think it's good if you come here from somewhere else, but it ain't never been no good for us. Never. The Constitution, everybody jump up and down about, hey, that Constitution, niggas, you got 5 hogs, 5 other creatures, and you got 5 niggas, you got 3, right? 3/5 of a person. Don't talk about how great the Constitution was. You couldn't vote, women couldn't vote, and men couldn't vote if they didn't have no property in America. If you get a case down there in court, 94% of the people, right? 94% of the people go for a plea bargain. Is that justice? I was in court last month and a half ago, and the guy come to me talking about, if you want to plead guilty, if you want to do this. I said, guilty? Oh, what? What is it? He rolling me up. I said, you got to be crazy. That's why in Oakland I'm fighting my own court case. I'm having a good time. Don't worry about it. There ain't no big cases. Just a little. I got an absurdity defense. I say what they doing is absurd and stupid, and that's the way I'm going to talk in the court, because it's just a little childish case. What? Slavery's been over for, what, 160, 70 years, something. They still shoot niggas down like dogs. What? Had 1 or 2 police in 100 and something years go to jail for shooting niggas, right? How many police, if they shoot anybody leaving here, blow their head off, what's going to happen? The police do it. Nothing. Nothing. Black Lives Matter? Not in this system, they don't. The only thing that we're good for is to fill up the penitentiaries, isn't that right? How many of our relatives are in prison? How many of our relatives and friends are in the penitentiary? If you from D.C., that means all of them, you one of the lucky ones, you pull a lucky number where you could get out and walk around in this penitentiary out here. That's the big yard out here, the little yard in the penitentiary, right? Why? Because you don't have freedom of expression. And now with high-tech snitching and surveillance, man, they got so much surveillance, any company, you got a phone with you, wherever you go, they can trace where your phone is. Can you imagine? You got a credit card, and they know everything you eat and everything. Why? Because and all of a sudden, all of what you bought, right? So this is a vegetarian, He goes to sleep at a certain time. And if he has this and that, he takes this kind of medicine. They know everything about you now. The freedom that we have now is less than in pre-60s. Yeah, we had more freedom before. They talk about Martin Luther King and Malcolm. You had more in those days, at least up north you did. You had more in those days than you do now. You could go to the passport office and say, I know this nigga was born. They give you a passport. You can't do that now. You got your Social Security card from the post office, right? You fill out a thing, post office, right? Get a Social Security card. You get 10 pair of driver's license, whatever you need. You could be Johnny Jones. You could have a driver's license, state that state. Now, Patriot Act and all those laws, you can't do nothing, right? You are less free now, except during slavery time. They got debtors penitentiaries in Mississippi, right? Debtors penitentiary. You may do more time for paying off the debt than you would for the crime you committed. Right? That's me and you. Latinos ain't no better off. They gotta stop you from coming across the border. Whose border? Their border. Where did they get it? They stole it from Mexico. Can you imagine your lovely United States? They stole half of Mexico, half of it. California, it's a pretty big state. Arizona, another big state. New Mexico, Colorado, Nevada, 25% of continental United States used to be 55%, Texas, don't forget, of Mexico. They draw a line. They said, we don't want you over here. We don't want you guys over here. We're going to build a wall. When anybody starts to build a big wall, it's a sign of the decline of that society. I'm going to close with this, but listen. This is life. Birth, growth, decline, and death. The trees do it, the animals do it, you and I do it. We're born, right? Then we grow. After a while, we healthy, running around, jumping up and down, turning flips. Then you get a little older, you get gray, beard get gray. You can't bend over like you used to. Decline, and pretty soon, you're going to die. Empires are like that. Rome was strong, aggressive at one time. Birth of the Roman Empire out of the Greek Empire. Right? 580-something BC, 500 BC. By 1000, by the time of Esau and Shalom, they was big. Right? The Roman Empire. It lasted a long time. It expanded. It was born, it expanded, it declined, and it died. Anybody ever heard the British Empire, the sun never set on the British Empire? That means the British Empire was so big, the sun never set on it. If it was rising over here, it was setting over there. It was big. The British Empire declined, or it expanded, it declined, and it died. That's the greatest British Empire. You know, a friend of mine wrote a lot of books. He passed away some years back. Dr. Khalid Siddiqui used to say that in our classrooms back in India, he was born in India at that time, before Pakistan separated from it. He said in our classrooms, they had two maps. They had a small map of India, and they had a big map of Great Britain. Big map. You know why? Because people sitting in the classroom would think of Britain as Great Britain, that big place. Great Britain, thought you can fit it inside my glass case. Right? Look, you can drive for days inside of America. You can't drive but a few hours in Britain, and then you're off in the water again. Psychological warfare. How are the people going to sit in the classroom and if they showed the real size, I think India in those days, because India in those days included Bangladesh and East Pakistan and West Pakistan, right? And India, like it is now. That's 20 times as big as Britain. If the people sat in the classroom and they said, we letting that little video crew up there control us and the rest of the world, they wouldn't do it. So they had a big map, psychological, a big map of Britain and a small map. Now America, I'm going to really close this time. I usually get 4, 5, 7, 8 closes, whatever come to me. But I don't want to punish you, so I'm going to, but look, I want you to just think of the world like this. Here we are now, that's the world outside, and we have an opportunity to make a better world. We're living in America. America started over here, 13 colonies, right? Wiped out most of the Indians. It was millions of at first, then it was a few 100,000. And it took all of that. It took Mexico. It had the Louisiana Purchase. America, they was calling the land of the free and the home of the brave. We was called the land of the slave because we were slaves most of that time. America has not won a war since World War II. As big as it is. It didn't win the Korean War. They signed a treaty in 1953 because so many of them were getting slaughtered. They didn't win that war. In fact, the war is technically still on the books. For North Korea, right, and the United States, all of our older brothers and parents were in Korea. Vietnam, if you would have seen those helicopters on the U.S. Embassy and those snitches trying to hang on, I don't know if y'all ever saw it, trying to hold on to the last bit of Sam. That's the way all of y'all are. If you're on Sam's side, hey, the helicopter's leaving. He might be on there, but he's going to leave you behind. Don't you worry about that. Forget about it. You're not going with Boss Man. Wherever he's going, you ain't going. He ain't taking you. You can forget about it. You can toll on everybody in the penitentiary. You could have did this. It don't make. Boss Man ain't taking you. Forget it. The invasion of Iraq, the invasion of Afghanistan, what are they begging? Please let us out of there. Iraq, the killing of Soleimani, have assisted in their ejection. Iran is in the right position. Technically, we are on the Iran side. You don't have to be on. I'm telling you where we're coming from. We've been on their side for 41 years, from the day of the revolution, actually pre-revolution. No, we've been on their side since pre-revolution. Since they've been grateful, it don't make no difference. I'll read this last side. It don't make no difference whether you like it or not. Whether you believe it or not. It is what it is today. We're asking you to not repeat the mistakes of the last 40 years or so, where everybody was on Saudi Arabia's side, Qadam al-Haramain, because of their money. God, protector of the two holy sites. I'll close with this. I just get one or two more things. If you're their friend, you can do anything you want, right? People that are their friend can do anything to us that they want, because they own the white man's team. Saudi Arabia can kill Khashoggi, they can invade people, they can do anything they want, because they own the Americans' team. And they can do anything they want. We don't want to be on their team. O Allah, we seek thy refuge from anxiety and grief. We seek thy refuge from lack of strength and laziness. We seek thy refuge from cowardice and ungodliness. We seek thy refuge from being overpowered by debt and the oppression of men. O Allah, suffice us with what is lawful. Keep from us what is prohibited. With thy grace, make us free from want of what is dishonest. Ameen. It comes to